Hi everyone, I'm Sarah. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a part tutorial, part class fused together. And I will be showing you guys different ways that you can use a yoga block. So yoga blocks are super versatile. They can make poses feel better in your body, poses more challenging. They can just make poses more aligned, so that's more at autonomically, I can't say that word, anatomically correct for your anatomy. Okay. So we're going to do like a regular class. I'm just going to be showing you a bunch of different ways to use this prop. So let's get started laying down. And bring your block with you so you have it handy. Maybe hug your knees into your chest to start, if that feels good for you. And then we're going to plant the feet down for bridge. And we're going to come into supported bridge, which is really great. So taking the block, we're going to lift the hips up and place the block on the sacrum. Should feel like a flat plate just above your glutes and below your low back. And we just want to let our sacrum rest on the lowest setting on the block. Beginning to breathe into the belly. Just a slight inversion here. Notice how this feels in the hip flexors and in the psoas. And then slowly just slide your right heel along the earth, stretching the right leg out and feeling even more length through the right hip flexor. Deep belly breaths here as we begin to open up. One more breath. Good. Using the hamstring to slowly pull that heel back into your bridge, just letting the left heel slide out along the ground. Imagine that left leg just getting longer, starting all the way up at the core. Just a gentle opening. One more breath here. And slowly dragging the left heel back in using that hamstring. Good. Feel both hips rooted on the block and start to bring your knees into your chest and extend the legs upward. Just letting now the blood drain down from the feet. Just a variation of legs up the wall that just allows our hip flexors to be nice and soft. So try to soften your quads here. The block just kind of helps tilt the pelvis up so that our fronts of our legs don't really have to work. And the knees can be soft. You can circle the ankles if that is your thing. One more deep breath. You can use your hands to help your knees soften and plant your feet back down. Lift the hips off to remove the block. And feel free to windshield wiper those knees. Awesome. Good. We're going to start to fire up the core now, fire up the inner thighs. So lift the head off. We're going to place this block in between the thighs. Squeeze the block with your inner thighs. And we're just going to pulse up here. So pulse 2, 3, 4. And just feel your thighs drawing together in on this block. So kind of using the block to help us activate the pelvic floor muscles, those inner thighs, all the way into that root. So take a couple pulses, exhaling as you go up. Good. Let's take 5 more. Hands can be reaching up or out. Good. And release the head back down. Good. Keep pushing the thighs together into that block. So feel that slight scoop in the low belly, that slight scoop in the pelvic floor. This block can help us kind of find that engagement. And then we're going to take a couple bridges here. So pressing down in the feet to lift the hips, big breath in, and exhale to lower the hips down. Try to keep the tension inward on the block. Usually in bridge, we want to like splay our knees open, but this block will fall if we do that. So take a couple more, inhaling up, exhaling down. Just notice how this feels different with the block. There's a common misconception that blocks just make things easier, but you'll see in this class that that is not always the case. One more. Good. And we're going to goal post our arms into goddess. So the elbows are bent and the hands up. And we're going to scoop the low belly so that our knees can hover to tabletop. Still squeezing this block. Awesome. We're going to inhale, drop the knees over to one side. Just till they hover. Exhale, bring them back to center. Inhale, drop them to the other side. Exhale, back to center. Only to hover. Belly draws in to bring the knees back up to center. Constantly squeezing on the block. Just getting our twists in. Nice core wake-up call. Inhale to drop the knees. Exhale to lift them back up to center. You can do this one without the block, but the block is helping our knees stay hip-width distance, which is really going to keep the hip flexors and the low back from gripping. Let's take one more each side. Beautiful job. Release the feet, release the block. You can rock and roll up to seated, or you can roll over onto one side and push yourself up. And we'll come all the way through to tabletop. Take your time getting there. And I think that we could use some cat-cow. So just inhale, drop the belly, stretching through the front body. And exhale to round. Good. You can take circles or any movement that feels good in your tabletop. Good. And then we're going to bring the big toes to touch, knees nice and wide, and we're going to sink back into child's pose. A couple of options for the block in child's pose. If your forehead does not normally make it to the mat, we just want to bring the block on the lowest setting or the second highest setting underneath the forehead so we can get that stress relief aspect. If your forehead normally gets down and you want a little more opening in your child's pose, you can bring the block where your hands are in the middle of your mat. If you have 2 blocks, feel free to use one under each hand. But just to let the hands be a little bit higher and the head comes through the shoulders. I find that this really gets into my lats. And you can experiment even putting it up on the second setting, second height. Breathing into this child's pose. Two more deep breaths. Good. And slowly remove the block. Just place it up and out onto the top corner of your mat. We'll rise up and find our first downward facing dog. So just tuck the toes, lift the hips high, and pedal out the feet, finding any movement that feels good here. Big inhale in. Long exhale out. Inhale to ripple forward to plank. Exhale, lower all the way to the belly. Untuck the toes. Inhale, baby cobra. Lift the heart. Exhale, release. Press up and back, downward facing dog. Good. Inhale here. Exhale, let's drop the knees to tabletop. Bring the hands back under the shoulders. Good. We're going to bring the left leg out, straight and strong, toes pointing down. Left hand, right hand reaches forward, opposite hand. Good. Big breath in here. Long breath out. Let's take one more inhale. Exhale, plant the right hand. We're going to bring that left knee up and forward in between the hands for our low lunge. Inhale to rise up. And just exhale, feel the shoulders relax down. And feel this left hip kind of pulling back on the mat, right hip forward, so that both hips are sinking forward evenly. Little energy back in this left thigh. Good. One more breath here. Big inhale. Exhale, plant the hands down. We're going to tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, and we're going to bring this block under the right hand for our twisted lunge. So just lifting the ground up a little bit, stacking the shoulder over the hand on top of that block. Pull back on this left hip. So we're making space in the spine, and inhale to lift the left arm. So even if you normally do this twist without a block, just notice how it feels to kind of lift the spine away from the hips. It should give you a little bit more space to twist into. Of course, you can always rise if you need. You can always go up a height on the block. You can even go to the tallest height if you need more space. Just play around with it. One more breath in. Exhale, release the hand down. Move the block out of the way. Let's step back, downward facing dog. Pedaling out the feet, lift the tailbone. Inhale, ripple forward to plank. On your exhale, lower all the way to the belly. Inhale, cobra. You might press up a little higher. Exhale, tuck the toes, tuck the chin. Downward facing dog. Awesome. One more inhale here. Exhale, drop the knees to tabletop. Bring the hands back under the shoulders. This time, right leg goes out and left arm forward. 2 breaths, finding opposition, finding strength. Awesome work. One more inhale. Exhale, left hand plants, right foot comes up and in for our low lunge. Find your foundation here to lift up. Imagining that the spine is lengthening. So imagine that your rib cage could just lift away from your hips, creating a little more space in the torso today. Awesome. One more breath in. You've got it. Exhale to plant the hands. Bring your block under the left hand this time, whichever setting works for you. Make sure it's in line with that foot. Good. Tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, and then pull the right hip back, pull the right shoulder back, and then lift the arm. Pulling out of the hips, out of the left shoulder, so we're not dumping down, and just feel where you can make space. Awesome. One more inhale. Exhale, right hand comes down. Move the block out of the way. You can just bring it forward. And make your way back to downward facing dog. Let's take one more flow. Inhaling forward to plank. This time you might lower at the bottom of the exhale to chaturanga. Inhale to upward facing. And exhale to downward facing. Awesome work. Inhale, we're going to ripple forward to plank again and just take a couple side planks. So left hand comes to the center of the chest. We roll over onto the left outer edge. And inhale, right arm reaches up. Breathe in. Exhale, regular plank. Other side. Right hand plants. Outer edge of the right foot. Inhale, left arm up. Exhale, regular plank. Good. Shift the hips high, downward facing dog. Inhale to look forward towards your hands. Bend your knees. Exhale, stepping up, forward fold, top of the mat. Ragdoll. Option if your hands don't reach the ground to bring them onto the block. It can be really grounding when your hands can actually have something to hold on to. Some of you that are really bendy, maybe later on you can bend the knees and bring the top of the head to the block. But just something to play around with. Wherever you are, just release for one more breath. Soft, easy knees. And then we'll inhale to lengthen halfway. You can keep the hands on the block if you'd like. Exhale, fold. And inhale, rising all the way up to stand. Reach up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Beautiful work. We're going to experiment with chair using the block between the thighs. For some people, this feels really good. So you're going to have it this way, skinny way in between the thighs. And just make sure that your knees are still tracking over your ankles, right? So we want to keep the alignment. And then hands to prayer, just sink down into your chair, feeling a little bit of those inner thigh muscles turn on. Good. You might extend your arms up. Let's take one more breath here. Good. Remove the block. Place it on the right corner of your mat and we'll rise up to stand. Awesome. Just notice how that felt. And we're going to reach the right knee up, come to one-legged Tadasana on the left leg. Good. Big inhale here. Exhale, we're going to step back, high lunge, high crescent lunge. Stick to the landing. Good. Inhale, make space in the ribs and the hips. Exhale, we're going to open out, warrior two. Sink down low. Good. Again, check this front knee is over this front ankle and just feel your alignment here. Inhale to flip the front hand. Exhale, reverse warrior. Good. Inhale, warrior two. We're going to find our block. An option to place it on the highest setting for side angle, bringing the hand to the block and pressing the left tricep into the left inner thigh. Right arm reaches up and we find length. This is one of my favorite variations. If this is too much for you, you just have your forearm on the thigh for normal side angle. This is an option to go a little deeper. And a really great place to find the bind, to start working on the half bind would be here because we can grab the inner left thigh with this right hand. So another option. My hand's coming to the top of the left thigh crease. All right, if you have the bind, slowly release it and come all the way up. You can bring your block with you. We're going to turn our toes to the wide edge of the mat. Setting up for wide-legged fold. So inhale to roll the shoulder open. Exhale, we're going to slowly fold. Couple options here with the block. Of course, block can be underneath the hands if the floor is far away. Option one. Option 2, you don't need the block, you're just chilling. Option 3 would be to bring the crown of the head towards the block and the hands in line with the feet like chaturanga. So the crown of the head, that crown chakra, just pressing lightly into the block. You might not need the block if your head can reach the floor, but it's kind of nice to see what that would feel like if if your head could reach the floor with the block. So just bringing the floor up to you. Wherever you are, you're getting a good hamstring stretch. One more breath. Good, soften the knees, press into the feet, and we'll come all the way up. Might as well just grab your block with you. We're going to be using it. Great work. So these left toes are going to turn in about 5 degrees, and the right toes are going to turn out 90. We're going to bring the block into the right hand. You can grab it on the highest setting. Arms reach out. Just tilt the hips to the left a little bit, and we're going to come into Trikonasana, triangle pose. So I really like using the block on the highest setting here, right inside the right arch, pulling the hips open to the left and making space in the upper body. So my upper body is parallel with the floor, and that's actually a great place to be for Trikonasana because then we can roll this left shoulder open. Sometimes when we grab for the foot, we're actually torquing our low back, trying to reach down and spin open at the same time. So the block is actually bringing us into a better alignment for our spine, getting more benefits out of the pose, out of the hip stretch, out of the shoulder opening. Good. Slowly, when you're ready, press into your feet, rise up. Good. We're going to cartwheel the hands down to the back of the mat. Go ahead and move the block up and out, and step back, downward facing dog. Awesome. Inhale to roll forward to plank, taking your flow down. Inhaling, upward dog or cobra. Exhaling, downward facing dog. Beautiful. Inhale to look forward towards your hands, bend the knees. Exhale, make your way up, forward fold. Inhale, lengthen halfway. Exhale to fold, and inhale, rise all the way back up. Awesome work. Exhale, hands to heart. Let's take our chair pose with the block again, facing the back of the mat. So we're squeezing our inner thighs on this block, and we sink down low. 3 breaths. Any knee injuries, this is a really good variation with the block because it strengthens our inner quads, which protect our meniscus, right? So, really great. All right, one more inhale. Exhale, remove the blocks. Slowly place it to the left side of the upper corner of the mat and rise up to stand. Awesome. This time we ground through the right leg. Inhale, lift the left leg up, one-legged Tadasana. And slowly step it back to our high crescent lunge, bending in that right knee, planting the left foot, big stretch in the left thigh. One more inhale here. Exhale, open up warrior 2. Sink down low, grounding that back leg, left corner of that left foot. Good. Feel the hips opening as we sink down. Inhale to flip the right hand. Big exhale, reverse, reaching up and back. Inhale, reach forward, warrior 2. Find that block, placing it on the highest setting or the second highest setting, and finding our side angle. So with this block, just feeling whichever height is best for you, allowing that right tricep to push into that right knee, and feel the tailbone dropping down towards the back, or the front edge of your mat now. Awesome. If you feel lifted enough in this bottom rib, you're just going to bring the left hand to the low back, and eventually it's going to wrap around to the inner right thigh. So because you're using the block to kind of create this space, you can work on the half bind here because when you grab for the full bind, we still want to feel that opening in this shoulder, right? Again, sometimes without the block, we can kind of crunch down and twist too much that it torques our low back, right? The block just kind of helps with that. Slowly release the left hand. Inhale, rise all the way up. You can bring the block with you. Turn the right toes to the wide edge of the mat. Good. Once again, coming into our wide-legged fold. Inhale to lift the heart. So make your way down. Hands on the block for support, or maybe forehead to the block on one of the settings. It's not really about how far you go, just about feeling the sensations of the pose and really breathing into those hamstrings. Good. One more breath. Good. This time we're going to rise up halfway lift, bringing everyone hands to the block. So even if your hands are already to the block. And make sure the block now is like underneath your shoulders so that if you looked at you from the side, your hands are directly under your shoulders. Good. From here, we're going to ground the right hand and pull back on the left shoulder, lifting the left arm for our twist. Careful that our hips didn't shift to the left. Try to keep the hips square in this twist from the ribs. Good. One more inhale here. Exhale, release the left hand, right arm lifts for your twist, keeping the right hip where it was. Imagining your spine lengthening as we twist. One more inhale. Exhale, release the hands down, slowly rise up, bring the block with you. Good. This time we're going to go into triangle on the other side. So left toes point to the top of the mat. Right toes come in a little bit, or you can think of that right heel as just kind of relaxing back. Okay, arms reach out. Tick-tock your hips a little bit to the right, and we find the block inside of the left ankle. Feel this left hip pulling up, left rib pulling up, and right shoulder opening. Breathe here for 2 more breaths. Exhale brings you up. We're going to cartwheel the hands to the front of the mat, putting the block off to the side, and optional flow. Inhale to look forward to the hands. Exhale, making your way up, forward fold. Inhale to lengthen the spine. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise all the way up. Exhale, hands to heart. Awesome. So we're going to make sure that our block is in front of our left foot. Just make sure that your block is up and to the left. Okay. We're going to be coming into half moon. So starting with our one-legged Tadasana, ground through the left leg. Inhale to lift the right leg up. This time we're going to exhale, swing it through warrior 3. So our hips are still level here. Now the left hand's going to come to the block outside of the left foot, and it can be on the second highest setting or even on the highest setting here. Once you ground that left hand, we're going to slowly begin to open the hips to the right. So the left hand is anchoring you like you were in side angle for a half moon, and then maybe we lift the right arm. So from our warrior 3, finding the block and opening the hips for our half moon here. Feel how the block, if you're used to using the hand on the ground, lifts the spine, so the spine has more space, more length, so the hips can open more. One more breath in our half moon, then we're going to slowly transition to warrior 2. So bend the left knee and slowly step it back, warrior 2. Awesome work. Inhale, flip the front hand. Exhale, reverse warrior. Inhale, warrior two. You can find that block again for our side angle, reaching the right arm up. One more breath in here. Exhale, warrior two. You can bring the block with you. Straighten the left knee and turn the toes in. Awesome work. One more wide-legged fold. Inhale to lift the heart. Exhale, bring yourself forward with your block, whichever variation felt good. Good. Inhale to lengthen halfway. We're going to bring our heels in and toes out for a goddess squat. So sink it down. Hands can be to the knees to start. And slowly rise up for goddess pose. Good. 3 breaths here. One more. Good. Stretching up tall. We're going to come back into triangle pose with the legs. We're going to actually come into twisted triangle or revolved triangle. This is a very advanced posture, but I just want to show you how we can use the blocks to get into more advanced poses. So setting up like triangle, except this time we're going to turn the upper body. So your back foot should still be 45 degrees, and make sure our toes aren't in line, but we're not on a tightrope. This right foot is a little bit more out to the right, so you can pull this right hip back. Then the left hand is going to reach for the block on the highest setting inside of the right foot. So we're kind of going across. Good. Right hand, first come to the right hip and pull that right hip back. Good. Then start to feel the twist in the upper body. Maybe the right hand reaches up. Revolve triangle. As best you can, ground the back foot. Really challenging posture, so if you're struggling, you're not alone. Feel free to bend the front knee. One more breath. Good. Slowly coming out of it, we're going to slowly unwind. Open out. Good. Let's sink into a nice warrior two. Good. Then cartwheel the hands down, move the block, and take a flow. Downward facing dog towards the back of the mat. Awesome work. Inhale to look forward to the hands, bend the knees. Exhale, making your way up, forward fold. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, fold. Inhale, rise all the way up. Exhale, hands to heart. Awesome. We're going to do this whole thing on the other side. Make sure we bring the block, highest setting, second highest setting for our half moon pose. Make sure it's outside of the right foot, so about a foot in front of you. Outside of the right foot, whichever height works best for you. Highest height is great, maybe second highest. And then we're going to find first our one-legged Tadasana on the right leg, lifting the left knee up. Good. Exhale to swing it through warrior three. Toes pointing down. Then we're going to find the block with the right hand. From that, anchoring down of the right hand, right foot, we're going to slowly open the left hip to the left, like we're sandwiched in between 2 panes of glass here. Left toes open, maybe left arm reaches up for half moon. It should feel really long from the crown of your head through your spine out of that left heel. So feel free to flex this left foot. And then you should also feel anchoring downwards through the right hand into the block and the right foot into the ground. Awesome. Slowly bend the right knee. We're going to come all the way up and back. Warrior two. Good. Inhale, flip the front hand. Exhale, reverse warrior. Inhale, warrior two. Exhale, side angle. Feel free to grab that block. 2 breaths here. Feel free to go for the bind, the half bind. Awesome. Slowly rising up, turn the toes to the wide edge of the mat. Find your block if you liked it. Wide angle fold. 2 breaths here. Just feeling the low back relax. Good. Slowly coming up halfway. So your hands on the block, kind of press into the block. Turn your heels in, toes out, and start to drop your hips. Lift the upper body off for goddess. No real way to use the block here. If you have an idea, put it in the comments below, but straight up goddess pose. All right. 2 more breaths. Awesome. Stretch the legs. You can kind of shake out the hips. We're going to turn to the left foot. So the left foot is going straight forward. And you almost want the left foot in line with the right heel. So we don't want the feet to be too much on a tightrope. Kind of want it to be a railroad tracks. And find your block. Highest setting is going to be great. Left hip pulls back, and this right block goes under the right hand. Revolved triangle. So left hip pulling back, right hand pressing down into the block. Crown of the head reaching forward, tailbone reaching back. Start to twist to the left, revolving the ribs to the left, and maybe you lift the left arm. Feel space in your spine as you twist. This is a really intense pose. Soft, easy bend in the left knee, so we're not locking back. 2 more breaths, you've got it. And slowly release, unwind. Let's open up warrior 2. And cartwheel the hands down, step it back, downward facing dog. Last flow, inhaling forward, exhaling to lower. Inhaling, lift the heart. Exhale to lift the hips. Beautiful. Inhale to look forward towards your hands, bend your knees. And exhale, making your way up to a forward fold. Let's take a ragdoll fold here. And make sure your block's nearby. So hang out in your ragdoll, you can sway. Let the low back release any tension you might have felt. Good. Then we're going to heel toe the toes out and the heels in. And make sure your block is back behind you. So we're going to sink back into Malasana on the block. So you basically want to sit on your block for Malasana. So if you haven't done this before, it might feel a little weird, but you have 2 sitting bones, the bottom of your butt, and we don't really need a big, comfy chair. You can kind of just sit on our blocks. So I'm on the second setting. You can totally be on the highest setting, and you're still gonna perch. I feel like Malasana is one of the best places to bring a block if you're really struggling to get into it. So I can be like totally hands-free here where normally I can't. So just feeling, you can play around with it. Just want to feel the hips drop into the block so we can lift our heart. And you can play with how forward or backward this block is. So I'm going to take a moment to find Malasana with the block. Great. Feeling that low back release and those inner thighs opening. 1 more breath. And slowly we're going to lift the hips, come back into our ragdoll fold, bring the block forward. Good. Let's just take another twist here. So bend the right knee, bring the block under the right hand, and start to draw back, lifting the left arm. Good. Slowly release. Block comes under the left hand, left knee bends, right arm reaches up. And slowly release. Beautiful. Plant the hands, make your way back, downward facing dog. Pedal out the feet. Good. Inhale to lift the right leg, 3-legged dog. Open up that hip again. Feel free to bend the knee. I just got a nice little hip pop there. Good, then we're going to step the right foot up and outside of that right hand. coming into lizard lunge, really deep hip stretch. So a couple of options for the block here. This is a really intense stretch for you. I recommend bringing the hands under the block, just to kind of lift the upper body. You can even lift the back knee if you need, just kind of coming out a little bit. Another option is if you're trying to get down to the forearms for this pose, for this lizard pose, but you can't really get your forearms down, a great place would be the block on the second height or the lowest height if you're trying to get to the forearms. Just brings the floor up to you, and then you can kind of relax the arms a little bit more once you're resting on the forearms. I don't know if you can see me too well. So the block is just underneath my forearms. And then if you are really bendy and you are already on your forearms on the ground, then stacking the block on its second setting, you're going to put your forearms on either side of it and just allow your forehead to rest on it. So whichever option suits you is where you're going to go. So the beauty of blocks is that there's multiple settings that you can put it on. There's multiple ways you can use it to help you. So just find the most beneficial one for you, and that's where you're going to breathe into. One more breath here. Good. And slowly, wherever you are, pressing yourself up, removing the block. And we're going to bring the block underneath the right hip for pigeon pose. So heel toeing the right foot over to the right so we can come onto the right hip for pigeon. So this is the first option I'm going to give, is right hip on the block. So that kind of lifts you up any knee pain. This is really great. And then you can slowly walk your hands to the top of the mat, just to go till you feel a stretch. So I might need to play around with the block for me in pigeon pose. So this is a great place to be. If you're already all the way down in your pigeon, you can use the block how we just used it, forearms or underneath the head. Okay, so wherever is accessible for you. On this side, I like to do the forearms on the block. The other side, I need the block under my hip. So another thing to take into account is different sides of the body at different levels of tightness. So let's take 3 more deep breaths into this pigeon pose. And slowly taking your time to come around. We're actually going to come onto the right hip. So move the block, come onto this right hip, and come to seated. So we're going to come into an easy seated twist. Option 2, if you're feeling really rounded when you do these seated twists, option to sit up on the block. Inhale to lift the left arm, right knee is bent. Exhale, cross it around, and find your twist. 3 breaths into this twist. Anytime we're seated on our mat, we can lift the hips with a block or a blanket to just feel, again, more space in the spine. Good. Slowly unwind. Option to stay seated tall on this block for Janusirsasana, which is head to knee pose. So just letting the right knee open out. If you're seated up on the block, this is kind of putting a lot of tension on the ankle from sitting up on the block. So just make sure that you flex the right foot and that you bring a soft, easy bend in this left knee just to prevent this left knee from hyperextending. Another option here, if you're seated on the floor, is to bring the block underneath the right knee. I feel with my left hip that I really need this block under my right knee. And another option, so that's option 1 and 2. Next option is when you reach up and over to bring the block with you. So wherever your hands land, your block lands with you. You can bring your forehead to your block. Again, the forearms can come to the block to help support your forward fold. Last option would be to bring the block around the top foot, allowing you to go deeper as you stretch and just pulling on the outsides of the block. I have it horizontally here. So once you found a good option for you, you're holding your stretch forward for about 3 breaths. This is not a pose that we should go past our edge in. This is a pose where we need to be careful that we're not torquing our low back for sure. Awesome. Slowly moving the block out of the way as we rise up. Just take a moment to shake the legs out in front of you. And we're going to cross the ankles or swing the legs around to come all the way through to our downward facing dog. Lifting the hips high. Feel free to shimmy the hips out. And on your next inhale, lifting the left leg high, 3-legged dog. Open that left hip. Take any movement that feels good. Getting ready for the other side. Left foot steps outside of the left hand, coming into our lizard lunge. So, picking the variation that works for you. Again, can't reiterate enough. It doesn't matter how you use the block. It can bring you up. It can bring you down. It can just change it so it's a little different. This is my humble side, I should say, the side that I can't go as far. So I'm going to show some different variations that I'm going to demonstrate as we hang out here. I'm only going to the forearms on the second setting on this side. So really listen to your body. You should not be feeling any pain, just a stretch. One more deep breath into both hips. And slowly pressing the hands up, lifting the hips a little bit. And then if the block needs to go under the left hip for the pigeon pose, go ahead and place it there first. And then we'll heel toe the left foot over to the right and sink down into pigeon. So this is the side where I really need the block under my left hip. Oh. And this is where I am. So it's really great to lift the left hip. Or of course you can bring the block forward like we did last time and rest the forearms on it or under the head. You know the options and you know your body. So just go to a good space. This is my edge on this side. So wherever we are, we're breathing. We're getting the benefits. I didn't say on the first side, but of course, if you want to do pigeon laying down on your back, figure 4, it's another option, and it's great. Two more deep breaths. And slowly coming out, we're going to come on to the left hip, swing the right leg around. So if you're on the block, you kind of stay seated up on the block. Just careful. Careful you don't fall off. Okay, the right leg extends out, left knee into the chest. Inhale to lift the right arm, and exhale, cross it around for your twist. Making space in the spine as you inhale and just twisting into it. Lots of twists today, lots of detoxing of those internal organs. There's no need to force it, no need to pull on that spine. One more deep breath. And we'll slowly unwind for head to knee pose. So option to stay sitting up on the block. Really great if you have tight hammies to just bend the knee, sit tall on the block, and feel how the low back doesn't have to round. We can really sit up tall if we're sitting on a block. It's really amazing. For me, on this side, I'm going to bring the block underneath my left knee to support the left hip and knee. On this side, of course, you can bring the block forward, bring it around the right foot if that's where you're going. Inhale to lift the arms and exhale to fold. Relaxing. And feel free to play around with different options. I know I'm giving a lot of options in this tutorial class, but that's because you need to play around with what works for your body on that day, on that side of the body. So feel free to adjust as needed. Let's take one more deep breath together, feeling the breath really slow down. Good, and slowly walk the hands back up. Remove the block, we're just going to shake the legs out again. Awesome. Okay, I want to give a couple options for our last seated pose. So you can sit up on the block for Sukhasana. Just a nice, easy cross-legged seat. Again, feeling how the block really allows the low back not to round like normally. Sometimes we feel like we can't sit up tall, but feel how it allows the spine to get a little more length. That's option one. It's really great. I love to sit in Sukhasana on a block. Option two would be for Hero's Pose. Hero's Pose is typically very hard to get into without a block. I can't do it without a block. So how we get into it is our knees are almost perfectly together, but our feet go out to the sides a little bit. So I like to place the block either on the second setting, right, to sit up on, or the lowest setting to sit up on. So the lowest or the second. This is also a great place. You can always place a block there and place a blanket in between the shins and the block. So either in Sukhasana or Hero's Pose, we're just going to feel the spine really lengthening. So let's inhale, lift our arms up, and just kind of feel some free movements reaching the arms and just feeling the spine really lengthen out tall. And just taking nice little side bends, just micro side bends. You can imagine you're kind of pulling on a rope with your arms, feeling space being created in the whole spine. And careful you're not arching if you're in Hero's Pose, but you're just feeling that tailbone drop straight down. Good, and let's take a tricep stretch. So the left arm bends, right arm grabs the left elbow. And breathe into the left tricep, left shoulder. Good. Inhale to reach the arms back up, switching sides, right elbow bends, right arm bends, left hand grabs the right elbow. Just pulling that elbow back. You can also do Gomukhasana arms here if that's in your practice. Should do a class on straps for that one, so you can work on using straps. But just get a nice shoulder stretch. And release it. Inhale, reach the arms one more time. Find real long space in your arms and release. Good, just circling the neck, taking nice, easy movement in the neck here. Taking circles one way and then the other way. Just release any tension there. Good. Awesome. When you're satisfied with that, we're going to come off the block. And before we lay down, I just want to give a little reminder that any of your forward folds that you do in a yoga class, whether it's the wide-legged fold or butterfly, let's actually take one of those together just to practice this. Let's take wide-legged fold. So what I was going to say is you can always sit up on a block for these. So if you know that you're usually rounded back at all in any seated poses, but especially in forward folds, then you just want to sit up on the block so that you can actually fold a little bit and not feel like you're really rounded. So let's take a wide-legged fold, sitting up on the block if you need, or coming onto the forearms on the block. Last option, I want to explain a little bit about this forehead into the block. So if you have this accessible to you in a forward fold, it's really awesome to add a block in for this because this is pressing on our third eye point, our third eye chakra, which is basically the point between the eyebrows. And we can hold a lot of stress there. So when you're kind of stressed out and your brows are kind of tensing a lot, kind of hold stress in our face. So I just think that, or I don't think, this is a widely accepted thing. Allowing the third eye, that brow bone, to just relax into something solid, it can send a lot of signals to your brain telling you to relax. So even if it's just a child's pose that you try a block underneath your forehead, it can be really stress relieving. I'm going to give one other option. If you find a variation that works for you, just stick it out there. I'm just talking away a storm today. One last thing would be to bring the elbows to the block, to make a cradle with your hands, and just bring your head into your hands. You're getting the same benefits of just the heel of your hand pressing into your brow bone as your shoulders relax down and you just kind of stretch forward here, as you would if your head was all the way down on a block. So this is just another great thing to do if you don't have a block or you want to be up on a block like this. So you've probably been in this wide-legged fold for a while, so let's just take one more deep breath. And slowly press yourself back up. Okay. Now we're going to come onto our backs and we're going to come into supported fish pose. So I want to offer this variation of the block in between the shoulders. So kind of place your block back there and just allow your upper back, so the base of your ribs is going to come down onto the block. And start with your knees bent and your feet flat. Then slowly allow your head to relax back. If that's too much on your head, feel free to support the head with another pillow. But I kind of like that it opens the throat to allow the head to relax back and just allow your hands to come out into goddess. Feel free to let the knees knock in towards each other to give space to the low back. If you'd like to stretch them out long, you can do that. You can also take a butterfly with the knees. Whatever feels best for you. We're just going to breathe into this amazing heart opener. Notice what sensations you feel in your heart space, in your front of your shoulders. Just take one more deep breath into it. Good. Slowly begin to lift the head back up. Come onto one side to remove the block, and let's just take a Shavasana. So feel free to bend the knees into the chest and slowly lengthen the legs out to the corners of the mat. Palms face up. Letting all the benefits of our practice sink in. Slowly beginning to deepen the breath. Inviting small movements back into the body. You might reach the arms overhead, pointing the toes, turning the head side to side. And we'll roll over onto either side for a fetal position. And slowly push ourselves up into a comfortable seat. Feel free once again to sit up on that block. I hope this class was informative for you and that you took a couple poses away from it that you can use the block. Feel free to write in the comments below if you have any more questions about yoga blocks or about what we did today. Let's just take one final breath together to seal our practice. So inhaling in nice and big, breathe in. Opening the mouth and letting it all go. Namaste.